Welcome to our YouTube channel, My Infinite Retirement. And my name is Daniela, and I'm one of the co-founders of My Infinite Retirement. And have you ever had questions about college funding, college planning, financial aid? Well, then you probably have kids or grandkids. And today we're going to cover a really important aspect of that, which is 529 plans and why and how they can become a financial aid trap. And with us today is Debbie Goldstein. Debbie is a college funding and planning expert, and she's going to share some really important hints, tips, and insights on 529 plans and why maybe a 529 plan might not be the best thing, and also what some alternatives are. And Debbie has been an independent educational consultant for many years and has helped many families really navigate through the confusing and frustrating process of admission and financial aid. And in 2020, she actually saved her clients almost $750,000. And before we get started, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell to be notified when we upload new videos, and please share this also with your friends and family. Let's dive right into it. So welcome back, Debbie. And this will be part 3 of our series. And again, we're so grateful to have you. And so the last piece, which is really important, is 529 plans. And so first of all, what is a 529 plan?
It's a tax advantage educational savings plan.
And so what is it used for?
It is used to save money tax-free to be used for education when your child graduates high school. It can be used for 4-year college, 2-year college. It can be used for trade school, vocational school, but it must be used for higher education.
Got it. And so now the big question is, what if a child doesn't go to college? Well, let's say maybe they get a full ride, so they don't need that money that's in there, which would be nice, right? But what happens in that situation with that money that's been obviously saved up in that 529 plan?
If you have more than one child, you can transfer that money that wasn't used for the non-college bound child to the college bound. And so if you had 20,000 in each, you would take the 20,000 from the non-college bound and you'd put it in the others. Now you'd have $40,000 in that savings plan.
Mm-hmm. Is that an easy process or?
Yes, that's very easy to do.
Okay.
It is. And by the way, on the FAFSA, a 529 plan, the savings in a 529 plan, not only do you have to declare and submit the amount of money that's in the 529 plan for the student applying to college, but if they have siblings and you have 529 plans for them, you have to include all of those assets.
Oh, wow. Who would have known that? Great, Debbie. And my next question is, who can fund actually a 529 plan?
Any relative can fund a 529 plan. But as I mentioned before, when that grandparent or aunt or uncle or anyone decides to give that money to the student, it becomes taxable income for the student.
Which means then that could backfire in terms of financial aid and all of those things.
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, it's by the FAFSA, the federal government, it's assessed at 20%. If it's owned by the parents, it's assessed at 5.64%. So you never want any monies, ideally, you don't want any monies in your child's name or Social Security.
That makes sense, yes. And so then what are the penalties, again, if a child doesn't go to college or maybe they get a full ride, what are the penalties if ultimately that money in that 529 plan is not used towards any type of college tuition, etc.?
Again, I want to preface this by saying you should check with your CPA, but my understanding is that it is a 10% penalty and it becomes taxable income.
Taxable income. Got it. And then so you mentioned, well, when we talked before, you mentioned that like a 529 plan is like a financial aid trap. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, I do admit I am not a fan of 529 plans They're tied to the market, and if you had your money in a 529 plan, as I did in 2008 when my first daughter went out to college, and 2010 when my second daughter went off to college, it was not a good investment because I lost a substantial amount of it. So there's that risk. And that's an important thing to understand. But it's because it's a countable asset. I have families that have 4 children and have 529 plans for all 4. And if each had $50,000, then the family on the FAFSA and the CSS profile and any other required financial aid documents would have an asset of $200,000. Well, that completely skews your ability to get need-based aid. Doesn't do any harm for merit-based aid. You can make well into the 7 figures and get a lot of money for merit-based aid, but I'm talking about need-based aid. So that's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of it, because I think there are better ways to save for college where they're not countable assets and is not going to hurt you in the financial aid formula. I don't sell insurance. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do understand that to own a whole life policy and fund that, to me, makes a lot more sense because you can use it for anything you want at any time you want, and you're not penalized. I think that, again, not a financial advisor or CPA, some annuities would be appropriate. Life insurance, annuities, these things are not considered countable assets in the financial aid formula, whereas a 529 is. And so therefore, I would rather not have money that's considered a countable asset and put it in some place. I make a little less money over the long term, but I think it's safer. And I think that if you are looking for need-based aid, it is a much, much wiser way to save for college.
So what you're saying, basically, it's better for parents or grandparents to, again, save money in life insurance products such as annuities or life insurance itself, or you mentioned earlier, then you mentioned an IRA, a Roth IRA, traditional retirement plans, because those are not counted as assets when financial aid is being calculated.
They're not considered an asset of the parent, and they're not considered an asset of the child.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of parents and grandparents, they have no idea because we talk to a lot of, again, parents, grandparents, and they save money in 529 plans or savings accounts or CDs, and they don't realize that that's going to backfire down the road because they would just, their eligibility for financial aid would obviously be minimized or diminished. Yeah.
I'll tell you something else that backfires on people.
Tell me.
And I just had this conversation with a family yesterday. Is the family liquidated a large 6-figure portion of their retirement. And what happened? It's now an asset on their tax return. Had they not done that, I would have been able to get them a boatload of money from the federal government, the state government, and the college. But because they did that, and it's considered a countable asset, the college has no reason to give them the money. Now, the fact that they're using it to pay all of their, their living expenses, the colleges don't really care about. So that's another trap that people get into by, if you do not have to, do never, ever liquidate a retirement account to pay for college. It is a bad way to pay for college.
Wow. And is there actually a time limit, with the FAFSA form where they look back over the last 3, 5, 10 years, whether or not you liquidated any assets that could backfire?
The FAFSA uses what we call the prior year. So if you were going to college in 2021, we would have used 2019. With COVID for 2020, a lot of people's financial profile changed from 2019 to 2020. And so I wrote a lot of appeal letters last year and this year explaining why that 2019 tax return might have looked really great, but that's really not the financial condition the family is in 2020 and most likely in 2021. So they use the prior tax return. They don't go back any further than that. And the private colleges that require a CSS profile, in my 10 years experience, they'll mostly ask for 2 years of tax returns,
2 years.
and that's it.
Okay. All right. So you really got to be careful where you're pulling money out in those previous 2 or 3 years. Awesome. Wow.
Yes,
This
I say
was
if ever a good time to be poor, when your kid's going to college, is a good time.
all right. Let's all follow that advice. All right, Debbie. Well, that was, and so many golden nuggets again that we got here from you today. So thank you again so much for taking the time. I know you're a very busy lady, and obviously, you've been helping save people, parents, a lot of money. And so thank you again. And we might have you back for another time. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. I hope that the people that are watching this get some good, accurate information.
I am sure they will. And also, for everybody who's watching this, the information to get in contact with Debbie, you can see it on the bottom of the screen, and it's also in the description of our YouTube videos. So make sure to reach out to her if you have any questions, and I'm sure she can help you. Wow, such great information again today. Thank you, Debbie Goldstein. Debbie is a real expert when it comes to college funding and planning and has helped many, many families over the years being better prepared for college and also with the planning aspect of it. And so by now you should have a much better understanding of what a 529 plan is and how it can backfire, what the penalties are. And there are actually alternatives out there. And this is also something we can help you with so that, again, you don't have all these negative aspects of a 529 plan. And make sure also to check out our other videos where we talk about admissions, tips, and hints from Debbie, as well as financial aid, because those are two other really important aspects of college planning and funding. And so in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell to be notified when we upload new videos, and also, of course, please share this with your friends and family. And if you're curious about how to create your own infinite retirement plan, make sure that you check out the link below to educate you further on that. And always remember, knowledge is power, but you have to apply it. And so thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.